We got a penguin who's trying to request. It's not part of the drip trade team, right? Is that
Not that I know of.
okay? Okay. All
No.
right, just checking. I would assume they have like hyper PFP or something. Um, yeah. All right, let's get into it. So, Drip Trade has been, the top marketplace on Hyperliquid. If you trade Hypios or any other NFT, you definitely know Drip Trade. And you guys, been there from day one when were in. We got to know each other well before the launch of HyperEVM, just because we knew that Drip Trade was in the mix, and you guys have done a great job establishing what seems like almost 100% market share over the last, what is it, 4 months? Do you guys want to talk a little bit about your past and how you got here and what it's been like for you?
Yeah, yeah. So hey guys, my name's Davey, and before this, I was an OnlyFans creator. Before I decided to learn development and build an NFT marketplace. Obviously, jokes aside, just been obviously in this crypto space for quite a while. Used to run a Web3 gaming studio that built you guys might have heard of it, the Beacon, which was like this free to play sort of roguelite on Arbitrum. And then been just building out like a bunch of shit since, and essentially Drip Trade right now just really is the culmination of a lot of the experiences throughout the years. So yeah, I'm excited to kind of build where the users are, which is HyperEVM. And there's obviously a lot more to it, to Hyperliquid, why we like this place. But yeah, really excited to just sort of be part of the ecosystem that hopefully is like pushing the ecosystem forward.
Oh yeah, yeah. Is there anybody else in the space?
Yeah,
If
yeah,
you guys
yeah.
all want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, for sure. So this is Nat behind the Drip account. But yeah, I was actually Davey's pimp. I managed all of his socials when he was an OnlyFans creator. Honestly, it probably prepared me really, really well for this role, sort of like the more operational day-to-day role with Drip Trade. But yeah, I mean, jokes aside, my background's in finance. Worked at a couple big companies before, and then took sort of the dive in Web3, like a few years ago now. And so it's really cool to be sort of on the more operational side of things with Drip Trade, sort of the day to day. You probably see me as like the master gatekeeper on the hyper launch side of things and like the actual marketplace, but also like doing a lot of our day to day sort of BD tasks, managing socials, that sort of thing. So, but yeah, been really cool to be around here. Obviously, Hypio is like, top of the lists always. So, thank you guys for
You guys beat us, especially the early days. I remember Hypers was the top, and I was like, you got the competitive flow going. You guys
Uh,
sound crazy, won't you? Especially to start.
yeah, but you guys weren't fully bridged over, so we'll take that with a grain of salt there. But yeah, I mean, just to add there, Nat is sort of our local whipping boy. So any complaints, don't direct them towards me. It's really Nat.
yes.
Cool. No, I will definitely complain to that. Actually, I don't really have much to complain about. Honestly, I think in the beginning, like as we all know, it's the same way it is with everything, including right now on HyperEVM. There was definitely growing pains with every aspect of this, including drip trade. And then, to your credit, you guys have really, continued to ship and improve the platform. And there's a lot there that going on that's improved over the last few months. It kind of leads me into my first question, which is a kind of an opportunity for you guys to say what do you think is the whole value prop of drip trade and NFT eco and Hyperliquid? What are you guys trying to do with this? Like what's the whole sort of plan here, and why do you think it's so promising?
Damn, really starting off with the big questions, huh? Look, from my perspective, I think perps are pretty much like the final frontier of like DeFi, right? So it's like, after all of these years, perps are finally mature, and we have all the DeFi primitives needed to like build really like almost everything we want on chain, like all the financial sort of products that we could possibly want. And I would say, like drip trade is sort of like step number one. We sort of needed to do drip trade in order to, just capture distribution for essentially downstream endeavors. But that's sort of like the being very frank here, that's sort of like the objective and like the big vision, so I guess big picture here. But with that said, right, like Drip Trade, it takes a lot of our experiences and just like NFTs in the past, and wanted to just ship hopefully something like slick. And I think like so far Drip Trade is one of the best like products that we've personally built as a team. And we're quite proud of it. Obviously, still a lot to do on that front, but we're marching it forward, and hopefully want it to be one of just sort of like a portfolio of sort of products that underpins a lot of like the day-to-day on-chain activities that happen here on HyperEVM. And with that said, we're super bullish, obviously, on HyperEVM because of the whole perps underpinning and like where all the financial primitives are. So not gonna spoil too much, but we definitely have our eyes a little bit forward beyond Drip Trade as well, on just like what are like the next pieces of I guess like financial products that like we would like to build out. Yeah, no, I don't know if you want to add anything there.
No, yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, everything that we build is meant to try to move the needle forward for the entire eco. I think the biggest thing here is like what is sort of anticipating like what do people who are like active traders actually want to see on a chain. I think the Hyperliquid ecosystem overall has done a really good job of building out these like foundational protocols that a lot of different chains already have. So we're ticking the boxes here, right? But at the end of the day, like if we really care about building like an interesting place for people to sort of have like a home, quote unquote, home ecosystem, we need to make sure that there's like a really strong sort of ecosystem of new products, new infrastructure, really things that like actually move people along. Sort of how do we actually like innovate on the actual ecosystem side of things, on the product side of things, because we can have 7 lending protocols, marketplaces, et cetera, but if there aren't any net new products, then what's the point of going from one chain to another?
Absolutely. So it kind of sounds like you guys don't want to tease too much of what's downstream, which is totally fine. Like you guys have so much to talk about today, including, well, we'll get into it, but yeah, no, I really resonated out with that. Like in terms of like, it's the same with us. Like, yeah, we're an NFT project, but like, we're also like a merch clothing brand. We're also just like you working on stuff that we don't want to talk about right now. You know what I mean? It's not meant to be like, this is it. We just make a picture. Bye. It's the end of doing interesting stuff. And I think that's pretty cool to hear. I think that's exciting to see. And you have to take it one step at a time, because to do anything serious, take serious time and work and effort and focus. How does Hypers play into this vision for the long-term stuff? Is Hypers tied to everything that's downstream, or do you see it just as a sort of coordination, community formation? Do you see it as explicitly Drip Trade NFT marketplace tied, or do you see it as tied to other things that you may not want to talk about? But yeah, I think a lot of people would love to hear about that.
Yeah. So I think before we get into Hypers, we cat's out the bag. We obviously have 2 tokens here. We have like the JPEG token, and we have like Hypers. And the thinking here is that everything is going to sort of like tie together. We're not at that stage yet. There's still some more work that we need to do to kind of like put the pieces into motion. But what we can say is that like Hypers is going to be like super tied in with JPEG. JPEGs are going to be like JPEG, the token is going to be tied into marketplace and anything else sort of like that we build out. And that's sort of the vision there. Right now, granted, maybe it feels a little bit more fractured, but just know that we are going to be consolidating sort of like all the incentives from various different like parties here into like a singular cohesive piece. And so, yeah, I mean, as far as it goes right now, like our JPEG token isn't deployed on HyperEVM yet. We do have, our contracts kind of under audit still. There's definitely some, I'd say, atypical mechanics that we're going to be baking into it, and ties in with the marketplace. So It's coming. And hypers are obviously going to be like a really core piece tied into the fungible token side of things.
Yeah, yeah. By the way, what's up, guys? Hypio, man, how you doing, man?
What's good, bro? I was waiting for that voice. It's good to hear your voice, bro.
Yeah. Sorry, got wrapped up in a call, but we here now. Ready to party. But yeah, no. Carrying off of like what Davey's saying, like we got some really like interesting shit that we've been working on. We honestly been working on this concept for like a year plus, just haven't really found the right community to kind of like launch this on. And so I think like Hyperliquid, is the place that we can really seeing it succeed on. And so yeah, more to come obviously, but we're pretty excited.
So, like, just you guys did kind of touch on it, but you basically see Hypers as the way to sort of form the community in advance for everything, and then it's going to link natively to JPEG. And then JPEG itself is quite focused on the marketplace aspect and not necessarily other things that you might be working on. Or I don't know if you guys want to clarify that
Yeah,
part.
I mean, I would think of it like this: like JPEG, is JPEG is tied, like the marketplace is more tied to JPEG. Obviously, like anything that happens to DripTrade is obviously going to want to benefit JPEG, but other stuff is also going to benefit JPEG. Stuff that you guys haven't even seen yet is going to benefit JPEG, right? Think of it almost like how Liquid Launch has their launch pad, right? But they also, you know, have now a swap, and that all benefits their one kind of like token, right? And so like that's how we like to think of it as well. And then Cypress is obviously the community, like, we want to like curate a community, but I think there's another piece where Cypress is also a way to showcase like the things that can be done. And once people see that things can be done a certain way, like there's going to be people taking, what's possible and doing their own spin on it, right? And that's where like this shit really pops off, and then everyone really wins within the ecosystem.
I like to also just
Yeah.
add as well. I think just to be really concrete here, I think of it as, JPEG is sort of the primary value accrual for us, for sort of like everyone on our side of the table here. And hypers are going to be part of that, sort of like those key stakeholders, and they might even be like call it like one of the core sort of like stakeholders at the table, if that makes sense.
Sure. I think, one thing, I don't know how many people know, but like Hypers was doing their promo way before we even came onto the scene. And I remember thinking like, God damn, that's such a fucking good name. Like, like it's such a great name for Hyperliquid. Like Hypers was such a good word. And then Hypers, like it kind of reminds me of ultras from like soccer. I don't know if anybody follows soccer, but there's like,
Yeah, fuck yeah.
there's like ultra fans, there's ultra groups, and we call them ultras. And Hypers was like, it's such a great, it would have even been a good name for our thing, like in terms of like a great Hyperliquid maxi kind of name. And so it sounds really cool that you guys are kind of using it both as this community formation thing, and then also as sort of your kind of experimentation with what you can do with NFTs and whatnot. So I think that sounds super interesting. If there's stuff about the downstream that you want to talk about, we can just get into. Well, actually, I have one question, which is about the tokenomics, which you guys might not want to be talking about, but did you guys take anything from like Hyperliquid team that maybe you can mention in terms of like tokenomics for JPEG or anything that you saw that they did that has it inspired, or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think like the biggest thing is like rewards, right? So we did 10% of an airdrop to, initial people, including Hypios and some others. But we actually still have like 40+% of our token that's allocated for rewards still to go. And like this isn't, just for like isn't going to be like a one-time blow the load thing. Like we want to strategically deploy this to benefit everyone, right? And so that is something that we obviously picked up from Hyperliquid, that we are like very excited about. And last thing is like obviously buybacks have started. The buybacks work. We are being a little bit more kind of like strategic on right now. We're like trying to figure out the best way to structure it, but like just know that there are buybacks happening already from our fees, and as we launch some new features over the next few weeks, like you're going to see some more interesting token mechanics with JPEG and buybacks for sure.
Awesome. One of the things I'm always going to be trying to ask stuff that I know that people want to ask. Feel free to dog it or whatever, you know. But one of, especially I know on tokenomics, people sometimes are like, I got to play that close to the test, which is fair. But speaking of Hyperliquid, like, you know, they have their buybacks, and everyone speculates like, what's the deal? Is this like effectively burned? Well, it's not, because they have it still. They're holding it. Is it going to be part of an airdrop later on? Is there anything you guys can shed light in terms of what you guys are thinking of doing with buyback tokens?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah,
Sorry. Yeah, I mean, I could jump in. So with the buyback tokens, we're not burning them at this moment. A big piece here is it is meant to essentially kind of increase the amount of like tokens that we can kind of give back out to the community. That's really like probably the biggest slice here. And yeah, I mean, I think like right now, just at the stage, burning doesn't quite make as much sense, just because you are kind of like losing network equity. But you know, we are still obviously like at growth stage, so want to sort of, you know, it's not out of the question down the line. Just at this moment, it doesn't quite make sense yet. So we're just sort of like folding it into the general, you know, stuff that we'll be doing for community purposes.
Cool. Yeah, why don't we get back into the kind of what you have done with DripTrade? I know there's been a lot of updates. You guys obviously are, I'm quite familiar with the product, but you guys are building it. So you guys can maybe go into all these changes that you've made, improvements that you've made, talk about the badges system, whatever you guys are excited to talk about in terms of, and obviously the reward system just came out. So we got a lot to talk about on this.
Yeah, dude, did you know that we're available on mobile now?
Oh my God. Now poor people can use it.
Yeah, maybe I think we should rethink that.
Yeah, I mean,
I know, Frank.
I'll take lead here. I mean, I think with rewards, like the one thing that we wanted to get right is just like make sure it captured everyone's track record from the beginning, right? Like we are the one marketplace that we can say like we've literally been here since day one, and we know what everyone's been trading since we first launched like 3 months ago. And so we wanted to make sure that like everyone was rewarded properly. But at the same time, we also wanted to incentivize and give little boosts to those that we think are going to shape the future of Hyperliquid. So Hypio, obviously, like we even talked about how we wanted to structure Hypio rewards into, or Hypio boosts and rewards into like our platform. And so, you know, every time you go to rewards, like there's literally a loyalty, a Hypers, and a Hypios tab, you know, for you guys. Because like we know that the Hypios are like one of the linchpins of this community, right? Badges is another thing I think that was just really fun, frankly. Like we the inspiration behind badges is honestly from the gems from back in the day. And like one of our like biggest users and like evangelists, like MB, honestly, like you are one of the biggest inspirations for badges, because we used to see you just post about like gems, and we used to think like, oh, that's honestly so sick that like you collect these things like Pokemon badges, and we're like, oh shit, we should just do something similar. And so like we just like honestly cooked up this whole feature in like a few weeks, and then we just like ripped it, and honestly did really, really well. We're excited how many people really loved it, and so we wanted to make sure that, you know, badges was also reflected within kind of like our reward system as well. So, you know, love to see like all the different things that people are doing. And then obviously just like the last thing was kind of like our daily loyalty game. I think one thing you'll notice that we really, really love to do is just like build fun shit that like people can come to every day, right? Like, I don't know if anyone's built like a little daily reward system before like this, where it literally is kind of like a casino like bonus game where you select like 3 things, then you get like major, minor, like, you know, grand jackpot, like little bonuses. And so that's something we wanted to build in just to reward like people that are consistently using the platform every day. So I don't know, Drip, Davey, if there's anything else that you guys want to add. I'm sure I'm missing some stuff. Maybe Davey, you want to talk about account stuff? That was a pretty big shift. And I know Hypio Man.
Oh,
I
Jesus.
shared this with you.
Yeah, man, that was it's a pain in the ass to build, I'll be honest. But we were able to sort of add multi-account linking, so that rewards are tracked across, like, if you want to like split off your tokens into, 6 different wallets, we'd essentially just accumulate all the points, that you acquire on those like 6 different wallets and put it together. And so that includes like boosts. So if you have like, call it like 5 Hypios across 5 different wallets, you would essentially have like a 5x or whatever the equivalent of having like 5 Hypio boosts are. So yeah, that was honestly a huge pain in the ass, but I'm glad we rolled it out. And I think it's just like a pretty solid quality of life feature for the folks.
No, it's huge. We literally had to do the exact same thing. It is a pain in the ass, but it's like people want to have their stuff on different wallets. It's not. I think people are worried about connecting to Drip Trade, but it's like, yeah, maybe somebody doesn't want to sweep some new collection on their main wallet, or who knows? People. You just give people the chance to do what they want with their assets, right?
Yeah, totally, exactly.
Yeah. Just before we move on from the badges stuff, the badges do interact with the rewards or no?
They do.
They do. Yeah.
How it works, just like a very, very high level. And everything, by the way, is in our Gitbook docs. So like we explain everything kind of like how it works there. But Hypers, Hypios, and badges all play into, and loyalty, they all combine into, think of it like a boost factor. Like the calculation itself, is that is for something for you guys to kind of play around and figure out with. But that boost factor itself multiplies with your buy volume in order to create your total, like calculate your total points. So all of those things come into play.
Dope. I have more of a question about NFTs in general. Personally, like running an NFT project, I think this is like the hardest thing to do, honestly. Like, I think it's an extremely difficult category. I think Hyperliquid is the best place to do it because of the wealth effect and because of how, new it is, especially the HyperEVM. The HyperEVM is obviously the only part that has NFTs. What do you guys think about NFTs in general? We talked a little bit about gems and how that's kind of like collecting Pokemon cards. What do you guys feel about NFTs? Like, what excites you about them? What discourages you?
Oh man, should I should I speak?
Yeah, go for it, Davey. I definitely have thoughts, but yeah, go for it.
Oh boy. Dude, what a question, man. Look, I think from my perspective is that NFTs are pretty much like a lightning rod for community formation. I think we've experimented with a lot of like utility NFTs like throughout like all the years since. It hasn't been that many years, but still. But it's like I think like the core sort of like product market fit here is still around community formation. And I think like one thing that we're looking at that's like I feel really interesting is that community formation is actually one of like the linchpins of sort of like whether, for example, meme coins will run or not, right? And that is actually, I think, like one category, like one area, there's no playbook. And I think like I do wonder, for example, where if we are able to sort of like insert ourselves into that sort of process and help facilitate essentially like, for example, like meme coins or whatever, kind of being able to like nucleate around these like NFTs or around just like these organic communities that like, I think it can probably like generate just a lot more action across the board. So that is one very specific example. I won't take the entire space, but I will. Yeah, I don't know if Frank or Nat, you guys want to like add or anything to it.
I mean, the one thing I'll add is like Hypios is already like a proven example of that, right? Like in a very clear sense, it's like things are like things come from within the Hypio community, and like there wouldn't be this group of people that are just like down to fucking like rip shit, shill shit, hold shit, buy shit if that community didn't exist, right? And there's like nothing like an NFT community that can bring people together. Like meme coins can't do that. Meme coins come from these places.
Yeah, I think that there's 3 elements of NFTs that make them compelling as a primitive. One is identity and like the PFP NFT as a category, because crypto is crypto and you don't want to be using your actual identity. So you need a picture. And so having a picture that can represent you and represent a community, the strong, PMF there. And then there's the collectible aspect. So if you can make the PFP NFT collectible, it's great. But then you have, stuff like gems where it's like honestly, I think that the gems and other stuff like that, it's just going to come later. I think there needs to be a lot of maturation. I think, for instance, like I don't personally want to be spending my hype on a ton of different random collectibles right now, just because I'm so bullish on hype. Whereas like some NFT collectible that may or may not have any motion or may or may not kind of have a community congeal around it. Right now, it doesn't feel like the time for me. The time kind of reminds me of an ETH, where it's like ETH had this explosion, like this Cambrian explosion of DeFi and all this other stuff. And then the collectible stuff came after everybody got rich. You know, I think a lot of people in HyperEVM, they're making money, but I don't think that they've gotten rich to be like, let me get my on-chain Pokemon cards fully yet. I think that still has to come. And then the third part of it is the non-fungible aspect. And this is where I have a question for you guys, is like, what do you guys think about fungibility and making coin like tokens fractional, and how do you guys see that? And maybe it's something that is one of those downstream things you guys don't want to talk about, or how do you guys feel like, you know, the nature of non-fungible tokens and the fact that, for instance, you can't buy a Hypio for like less than 6 or 7K right now, stuff like that, or a Hyper for a couple hundred, whatever it is. You know what I mean? What do you guys think that plays a role, and what's your thoughts on, you know, the nature of non-fungible tokens?
All right, I might get lynched here, but I'm going to say, like, I actually think that non-fungibility and low liquidity sort of aspects are a feature, not a bug.
I'm with you. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I mean, like, look, I come from like a little bit of like a gaming background here. And so one of the biggest challenges, especially building like games in this space, is that like everyone wants like, you know, to hyper financialize whatever assets are out there. And the reality is, it's like that kind of kills the game design. That kills a lot of like the intrinsic sort of motivations for playing, for sort of like collecting, for doing, you know, God knows what. And I think like having things be non-fungible, I think is a feature, kind of like you said, where it's like maybe it's a late game aspect. Once like people already have money and like they just want to like, you know, fucking chill out. But I think it's like, I don't necessarily think that hyper financializing like NFTs is necessarily sort of like going to be better for the ecosystem as a whole. I mean, at the end of the day, like, you know, I think capital efficiency is very important. But like the NFTs that win on sort of these non-tangible factors, you know, such as like just vibes, community, etc. And like you just, it's so difficult to essentially be able to like sort of price that. And so anyway, I mean, I don't know if like starting to ramble here, but that's, yeah, I mean,
I
like we're kind of on the same page there.
I completely agree. You know, we had some guy, when we hit like 5K floor, some guy was like, wouldn't it be so great if we could fractionalize Hypios? I was like, no, fuck you. And I blocked him. Like, I was like, no, because it's just like, it's the, like, it's just, it's a total misunderstanding of the primitive to me. Like, we have coins. Like, if crypto is redefining, you know, markets itself, which it is, you know, that's what Hyperliquid is about. It's like, you have coins for trading fungible liquid coins. And then NFTs are basically the, you know, the recreation of the art and collectible markets. And these markets are typically not liquid, and it is a feature, not a bug. That's why they can pump so hard. That's why they can appreciate so hard, because people want to hold for a longer period of time. You're not supposed to be doing, you know, like high frequency trading necessarily on NFTs. You know, you're supposed to be like, kind of like let it cook. And that's just the whole point of it. And you turn, you know, we saw with 404s. I don't think any 404 has really actually hit it big, other than basically to be effectively a shitcoin. You know what I mean? That pumps and dumps.
Yeah.
And then because there is enough liquidity for anybody to always sell their max bag at any given time, they will, and they'll move on. And it's like, that's the point of NFTs. It's like, you're not supposed to be buying it for that. If you are, you're kind of retarded.
I mean, to be fair though, I think like 404s are flawed in terms of mechanism design. I actually really like the concept of hybrid tokens. But you know, I don't like the way that 404 the 404 mechanisms are sort of built out. Like for example, right? Like if you were able to just like have a bunch of like fungible tokens and you were to like permanently lock it up into an NFT, like, you know, and then let's say like if you wanted to like extract it out, you had to burn that fucking thing. And so like the NFT is never fucking coming back. That's like the permanent damage that you would do, but I guess you can extract like the whatever fungible bits out of it. Like, I think like something like that would make a lot more sense than, how 404s do it, where it's just like, it just randomly re-rolls for you every time you fucking like transfer it. So I mean, like that's sort of like my 2 cents. I mean, we definitely keep our eyes like very, very close on just sort of like developments in the hybrid token space. And like, I think like I'm generally bullish on it, but just not 404s, if that makes sense.
No, I agree. I think, there's, we have Tricks here, and Tricks, you're welcome to come on and talk a bit too. But Tricks has done NFT fractionalized. He's done it with Hypios, and he's done it with other, it's quite complex actually. But he's fractionalized Hypios, but he's fractionalized them into like 10. You know what I mean? That he's fractionalized them into other NFTs, which is a much more interesting way of doing it than I think, doing it with like 404 or something. You don't really see like Charizard cards, like or like big collectibles converted into these like highly liquid markets. You see them. I think the most interesting one would be like, if you could get like a PSA 10 OG, whatever, shadowless Charizard, and you split it into 10, like, yeah, that's actually an interesting investment. But if you split it into a million or a billion, it's kind of filling it.
Well, I'm curious, like, how do you feel about like companies like Masterworks? Like, are you familiar with like Masterworks?
Yeah, they're like it's like an art fractionalization thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. Where like you buy shares into like one of these great masterpieces, like a Van Gogh or something like that. Like, I'm curious, like how you feel about like a business like that.
I don't know the actual mechanism. I know, but like that it lets you get a fractionalized exposure to art. But I don't know, is the mechanism like how liquid is it? You know what I mean? Or like what kind of fractional? It's like it splits it. I know there was one to Banksy. I don't think it's Masterworks, but maybe there was something with Banksy where they like took a Banksy and they split it up into like 1,000 or something. I don't know if anybody knows, but is it like that or how is it?
The way that they do it is it's more like almost like an ETF, if you will. Well, like almost like the fund invests in, like holds on to like the masterpiece, and it issues essentially, shares in that fund. And so I guess like in that case, it's like it's not really splitting up the artwork. It's more just creating a derivative where people essentially can get like some theoretical upside in, like the secondary market for artwork.
I think it's interesting, and it's also like, the market segments itself, segmentalized. I don't know if there's a word for that, but segments into different categories for art. Like, the old masters is a totally different thing than like, something that was made like 50 years ago, or like a Basquiat or something. Like, so and that's very inaccessible. And once something gets extremely inaccessible, that's where I think that this stuff gets interesting. Like, I don't think fractionalizing is so great in general, but like, there's just so many different ways to do it. Like, for example, Milady had the NFTX liquidity, and it just added like a bit of liquidity. It wasn't like too much. It just added a bit more. So there's a little bit of a better market. We did that on Base with SudoSwap, and we've been trying to get SudoSwap to come over here, and so we can do that, or you guys can build some SudoSwap kind of automated market making tools. Because we want to have some little bit more liquidity, but I think, it's very different. You got to treat it case by case. Like, I think it might be interesting to fractionalize CryptoPunks and things like that, but it's in a different category. You know what I mean? It's not the same as fractionalizing Hypers.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a very valid point. Like, it depends, I think, very much on like the cultural zeitgeist of each collection. Like, you would be able to do some things with maybe like a punks, but like you can't do it with a I don't know, like an Azuki or some shit like that. Yeah, I mean, like I would agree with that if that's sort of where you're coming at. And I think like the fractionalization at the end of the day, like the construction of the financial instrument is really important. The way you construct it is going to facilitate certain actions and not others. And, everything obviously comes down to just like human behavior, microecon, all that sort of shit. So, yeah, I mean, like you obviously want to use these derivatives or these sort of like constructions to incentivize certain behavior over others. So, I guess like long story short, it's not like a one size fit all sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I don't know if anybody else on the space one has any other thoughts about NFTs and liquidity.
No, I think one thing I'm curious to actually get your thoughts on HyperEVM is just like for you guys, for you specifically / Hypios, like, how do you guys kind of think about, how do things pass the Hypio sniff test, right? Like, this shit is dope. This shit is not. I want to push this. I want to ape into this. How do you guys think about that?
I think I'm brutally honest, man. Like it's funny to say this in the space of the NFT marketplace. I'm just genuinely quite bearish on NFTs in general. I think people have lost the plot on like what a good NFT is, and a lot of them are just rugs. Honestly, you know what I mean? Like a lot, like just the space, the way, and it's the same with coins, and so in general, I'm not like a huge NFT speculator, but there are singular ones, and I think um, for lack of a better word, maybe it's the right word, but like kind of NFTs can kind of have an aura and an emotion about them. And there's very few of them. The Lady was definitely one for me. Like I was in the Lady very early on. And I definitely remember being like, yeah, no, like, people just don't realize what's going on here. This is very singular. It's not a Ponzi. It's not a Zuki. It's not Basie. It's like, it's its own thing. And they're doing something where this is art and there's the community and this is vibes, and a lot of people use that pitch and it's total bullshit and it's code for a slow rug. But the reason, it's like a cliche that there's a reason it becomes a cliche is because occasionally it is real. I think it's real with our project. We're like very blessed to have so many real people that are real active users, and it's why we've had such strength. But it's very hard, and I think people kind of they come to it with this incomplete approach where they're like, I want to make an NFT because collectibles are fun and NFTs are fun as a concept. But they don't realize that there's just so much that you have to do. You have to get a community. You have to keep the community paying attention to you. You have to keep the community engaged. You have to make sure that the art is compelling and it fits, a theme and a narrative. And like, for instance, we've seen a lot of people do this Hypio of X thing. And it's like, it's a total misunderstanding because it's like, the reason why Hypio works is because of Hyperliquid. We couldn't do this on Aptos. We couldn't do this on, any other chain. It's like, and obviously we have a lot of elements that are great specific to us. But a huge part of this is that like, we packaged it in a way where it's like people were understanding of this sort of Remilio derivative concept. We were in the wake of Retardio. That's why we try to differentiate so much with Retardio, because I think Retardio really lost their way in a lot of ways as a community, and it's what hurt them. But we knew that the market was primed in that sense of like understanding this theme. So that was a big part of it, where it's like, to me, it would have been, I would love to make some cool PFP that's, like I would love to make an anime NFT project. But, the Azukis have decided as a community to rug so many people with these anime NFT projects and this IP pitch that it's almost killed the category completely, and it's no longer a compelling opportunity. You see stuff like Final Bosu on Abstract and these other things that they kind of like all try to jump on their own wave, and the supply is wrong and the price is wrong and the pitch is incorrect. And so I just think you have to hit so many different angles properly that for long-term hold, it's really hard. And I think that's why we saw on Hyperliquid, for instance, it was us, which like definitely some people are looking at it as like a token farm, which I don't like, but I understand that some people look at it that way. And then as you guys, and obviously you guys are tied to a token. And then it was Mecha Cats, also tied to a token. You know what I mean? And it was like, these were all not NFTs for just NFTs. It was like, these were NFTs where it's like, I'm tied to, a protocol, or I'm tied to, further speculation via coins. There aren't a lot of, I think it's a shame that stuff like Laquina hasn't caught on, because Laquina is kind of a real project trying to make it work. Laquinas are doing well, but like, you guys get what I'm saying. It hasn't caught this fire that a kind of traditional old.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I wanna also just add a piece where I think you might be selling yourself short there. I think like a big piece here is also just like the initial community. Like you guys have a lot of just like builders, like people who are down to just like rip projects, just for fun, and just build stuff out. And I think like that really can't be kind of understated here, but just given that like the nascency of the ecosystem and just like pretty much like anything you do in crypto, like anyone can like every single day like can build just something like net new. And I think like the fact of the matter is that like you guys do have this really strong community of folks that like are capable of like building and like launching stuff. I think that's like a really core piece. And at the end of the day, it's like it's really just gives more shots on goal for the project in terms of like capturing attention, right? Like that's really sort of like,
absolutely.
yeah.
And the problem for us, it's like, yeah, like we absolutely take credit for like nailing that element of it. It's like you front run the NFT market. We managed to capture this mind share. We purposely gave teams, and we even gave Drip Trade team a bunch of Hypios. We gave most teams that were there at the beginning free Hypios, and we tried to include protocols. So like we very much tried to capture this. And then you have to like, that's why I think most people shouldn't do NFT projects. It's not like to glaze ourselves. It's because you have to have a plan for every phase. Like we had the plan, we're going to bootload with the lady community basically on Ethereum. And the next thing we're going to do is, base speculators and Hyperliquid people who want to come over to base and speculate on the Hyperliquid NFT. They're going to come over. Then we bridge, and then suddenly the Hyperliquid community can buy. And that's the next wave of liquidity. And then that's going to continue for a long time because it's just like, as you can see, play out. And then after that, we have this turbocharged element where it's like, yeah, we have all these builders, and it's incredibly on meta because Hyperliquid's meta, and because, builders at the early stage of HyperEVM is incredibly on meta. So you see Hypios making the best coins, you see Hypios building the best projects. Like I consider you guys, obviously you're Hypers, but you're also kind of a Hypio team in your own way. And eventually, HyperEVM is not going to be early, right? So then we have to have a plan for that, which is where, doing something like merch brand, doing other things that I'm not going to talk about, but you have to have a plan for what happens when this HyperEVM element of the trade isn't relevant anymore. Or, you know what I mean? Not relevant, but it's not this, you're not on Solana in 2022 or 2021 type shit. You know what I mean? Now the EVM is matured. And how do you make sure that you're not this washed, fell off project that was great early on? You have to plan for all of this. And both these projects, if we're honest, their plan is like, I need to mint out and get paid, and then we'll figure it out. It's like, who has time for that, bro? Like, I'd rather just hold hype at that point.
All right. I mean, since you mentioned it, like, what's going on with merch? What's Tide Market? Want to spill some beans?
Yeah, well, I want to hit the party alpha. People want to rage.
Yeah, we can talk about. So the merch thing is it literally ties into what I was just saying, which is like the plan was sort of have these layers of liquidity where it's like, unless you're scamming, kind of, you have to have an idea of who the marginal buyer is going to be at every phase, right? So, like I said, the marginal buyer at the beginning was basically people who were tapped in and paying attention to Twitter and reading Guthic's tweets or whatever, and then Milady community, and then like I said, base speculators, and then Hyperliquid community, and then now once we're at Hyperliquid community point, and this is a phase that's going to be, this is the most substantial phase of liquidity coming into the collection, and more marginal buyers, right? But at some point, you're going to reach that critical mass of that, which is how do you continue to expand your brand and presence beyond that? And so we really see ourselves as like marketing arm for Hyperliquid in our own way. And part of that is to transition over into real world and like normal people and then help Hyperliquid get brand presence. So that part of that is our merch. And I think people are going to be surprised that our merch is not like all explicitly Hypio coded, because we're kind of taking a risk, which is literally, can we make a brand that's compelling? And it has sort of like this Trojan horse element where if you're a Hypio person, you'll recognize aspects of it. But other aspects of it are just cool by itself. And it differentiates, and it's going to help us reach a new market, which is people who are not even necessarily in crypto. That's not going to happen now. It's not going to happen today, but it's going to happen in a year, and that's the plan. That's what we're executing towards. So yeah, our merch is meant to be just a really cool brand on its own, and not necessarily just carried because like Hypio is popping or whatever. It's like, it's meant to be something much, much bigger. So that's what Tide Market is. It's basically a standalone thing that's effectively just a big collab with us. And it's going to help both, and it's going to help Hyperliquid, I think, in the long run. Imagine if like whatever your favorite streetwear brand is, Supreme is like a crazy example, but like, whatever it is, Fear of God or something. Imagine that they were making Hyperliquid merch. It would be great. Like, that's kind of like where we always want to take it as big as possible. And we're not trying to like keep ourselves in this box, like we don't want to just be like, oh, that's like a Remilio deriv that happened to be early on Hyperliquid. You know what I mean? Like, we want to keep pushing and defying what labels people can put us on. I think any team that is serious is trying to do that. Just like Hyperliquid, they're a perp dex, and suddenly they're like, by the way, we're in L1, we're going to house all of finance. You know what I mean? It's the same energy with that. It's like, by the way, like, we're a merch brand, and we're going to be appealing to people who don't give a fuck about crypto, and then we'll convert a bunch of them, and those people are going to end up converting into IPOs too. So it's part of a broad marketing strategy, and also turning this into not a Ponzi scheme, like turning it into a real business that can function on its own. You know, IPO is a great like kind of mascot for a streetwear brand in its own way. It doesn't have to be so overt and kind of gay the way crypto merch can be. It can be singular in its own thing and also tie in a very natural flowing way. So that ties into our party with DripTrade. We're happy to have DripTrade as a sponsor. We're talking about doing something together, and I think we'll probably be doing more stuff in MIC and maybe elsewhere. I don't know, but the party on May 30th. I think it's gonna be pretty fun. We started planning it when like as you know, Frank, like we started planning when we were like 2K floor and the market was all pissed, and now we're like 7K, and I think it's gonna be kind of funny. Like I wouldn't be surprised if this is way too many people. But that's a good problem to have. It's way better than it being empty or something. But yeah, no, we got some great DJs. We got Susie Shear, who I don't know if you guys know. Susie Shear is an awesome up and coming DJ and artist. You can check them out. Dokane is this girl she has a TikTok that's pretty popular, and she dresses up with a deer head. And she's a good DJ. We also got Crisis Larper as a DJ. And there'll be some free merch. So there's this like kind of classic Hyperliquid shirt, which kind of ties into what I was saying. It's like, it's not all of our merch is going to be explicitly Hyperliquid, but we know people want Hyperliquid merch. So, we're giving the people what we want with that. And then there's some Hypio coded merch, and then there's some exclusive New York merch for the people at the party. So there's merch you can buy, and there's merch if you're a Hypio holder you can get for free. We'll be propagating like the Luma to sign up on that, so you can make sure that you get that. There's also free drinks for Hypio holders there, so make sure you sign up on the Luma. We'll give you guys a bunch of drink tickets and whatnot. So yeah, I think it's gonna be a great time. We got a cool venue. Not massive, but I think it's gonna be great. And we got great music, and it's a great spot downtown, kind of near Chinatown, Soho, right on that line. Yeah, it's gonna be awesome.
Fuck yeah. Yeah, no, I think when you called me and said some of the DJs that were playing, I was like, dude, this is like gonna be such a Hypio coded event. And I think like it's gonna like people are gonna be seeing it on the timeline. So everyone that's in New York, like definitely go party on Friday. For those that aren't, like, dude, I'm sorry, but you're gonna see it all over the timeline and get FOMO. It is what it is. You just gotta move to New York, man. But yeah, no, I'm excited. Anything else you want to add, Hypio Man, on the party side? I think you covered it pretty well.
No, I would just say I want to make sure we stay on DripTrade, and also like I know we're wrapping up pretty soon. So the only thing I would say is like part of our idea for the brand, why it's called Time Market Worldwide, is to do stuff all over the world, and we have to do it purposefully and take it one step at a time to do it right. But we do want to do shit. We're planning to do stuff in other countries this year. We're probably going to be doing more New York stuff because there is a lot of Hyperliquid presence in New York and Hypio presence in New York. But this is kind of like just the opening salvo for us in terms of doing cool shit that makes people excited to be IPO and excited to be involved. And it sucks for the people who can't come, but hopefully we'll have enough events all over and continue to do that.
So I love it. Yeah, I mean, I think like that pretty much sums it up. On our side, I think we covered a lot of things that we wanted to cover. Likewise, I think first hyperfluent podcast space hopefully went well. This will not be the last. I'm pretty excited for more. Yeah, everyone definitely go check out the event. Check out our rewards if you haven't. A lot more to come from everyone, Hypios, us, all the builders in this space over the next couple months. Go fucking Hyperliquid. And yeah, anything else you guys want to add, Davey, Hypio Man?
I'd love to get Trix and maybe Root. Root is a staple of our spaces.
Let's do it.
I don't know, Trix wants to talk about what he's been doing with fractionalizing NFTs, and maybe if you're ever going to do some of that on Hyperliquid side natively, or just any thoughts that you have, and then Root.
Yeah, 100%, man. Thanks for having me up here, IPO Man. And sorry I can't be in New York, the party. I'd love to be there. Like, I'm getting FOMO already. But yeah, like as you mentioned it earlier, I've been fractionalizing. You say fractionalize. We call it syndicates. We split NFT assets into shares. So we don't do it for any collection. Let me put it that way. This year, the only thing that I've been syndicating and fractionalizing is Hypios and assets on Hyperliquid, pretty much Buddy, Rub, Hype token itself. So in the past, we've done it with other things. We did it with Node Monkeys. We saw an opportunity there to mint a bunch of them, and it was an expensive mint. So spots like that where a bunch of people can put in a bunch of money together, contribute, and hit a 50x type trade, which is not a cheap entry point on the No Monkey. It was a 3k mint or something like that. We minted 8 of them, and we were selling them for up to 1 Bitcoin each. So those type of trades, they don't come around very often, I think, is the point I'm trying to make. We did it with Mad Lads on Solana. That was another rare, but sort of they were the winner on Solana of that season. And we identified in December, really, that Hyperliquid was a good place. We found Hypio very early and decided, like, this is the move. This is hype summer, is hype season. This is the period where we should just focus all of our attention, all of our efforts onto Hyperliquid, and Hypio has been the best place to do that. So that's why we're not fractionalizing. We split Hypios into 6, 10. Like the cat bar, we split into 20. But if people want, like personally, I wanted more exposure. I wanted some exposure to a cat bar. I didn't want to drop whatever it was at the time on a whole one, but to have a bit of exposure to that was nice. And so, yeah, we've been collecting IPOs at all prices, from mint, from post reveal, from before the bridge, after the bridge, even running a syndicate to collect one IPO at 200 hype last week. So we are.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we're giving people exposure. Do you know what I mean? And it works nicely for me as my project. That's my focus. It's worked out great for every single person who's joined these syndicates, and it's been a way to give people exposure without necessarily having the whole amount up front to put in. And also, not just that, but also if you did, for example, have 5 shares out of a 10 share IPO, you could DCA out of the IPO exposure in future if price, well, when price goes up. But it's a generational trade. These are like once in a season, once in a cycle, you'll get like a Node Monkey type parabolic, Mad Lads type parabolic, Bored Apes type, Punks type parabolic move. And this is the trade of the season. So sorry, my baby's crying in the background, but that's why we're so focused on Hyperliquid and Hypios, man, because this is the trade of the year, in my opinion, and probably for years to come as well. But I think there's so much good. There's so much good that you guys have done, and we recognized it and tried to support however we could from day one.
Yeah, for people who don't know, I think it ties into, what the DripTrade guys are talking about with Masterworks. It's like, Fearless Bold and what Trix has been doing with it on Solana. You guys should definitely check it out if you're interested in it. It's called Fearless Bold. You're almost like a fund manager. Like, you've really hit a lot of great trades. And, Trix was one of the most bullish people on Hypio's early days, where it was like, I remember you bought the cat ball like at a premium from our treasury. I remember like, damn, like, he was one of those first people who really saw what we were doing and, was spending real money and getting these people exposure. And it's really amazing because it is one of those few things where it's like, it's kind of free. Like, you can trust this person who has this crazy hit record. He's not just doing it to do it all the time with random stuff. He's really picking stuff he has conviction, and he's letting other people get exposure to it too. So it's super cool. Root. By the way, Trix, are any plans to do anything on Hyperliquid? Like, do you guys have any thoughts about moving Fearless Bold? Do you think you guys are always going to be kind of base camp on Solana?
Probably the first move actually will be to move our syndicate. We've got 100 balls, which are essentially shares of Hypios, of 10 Hypios in total. So if anything, like, we're not doing anything right now, but when we do, that'll be the first thing, will be to bridge those from Solana, just the Hypio ones, so that it's easy. Then if we get an airdrop to one Hypio, we can just drop it to the shareholders without having to bridge anything back to Solana. So if anything, that'll be a first move, 100 piece collection, which already exists, that will just be bridged. And they don't really trade that much. They're mostly just held, not many listed. And then who knows, maybe that could lead to a fund where we invest in more assets on Hyperliquid. But it's not something that we're rushing, and I definitely would not want to do anything unless it's something I'm proud of, like legacy piece, not just for the quick pump and dump. It's not the way. We're too old for that. And for now, we're just vibing with Hypio. Want to see this collection and the whole eco do well.
Clickety clack, guess who's back? What's up, y'all? What's poppin'? It's been a minute. I've been on Spaces with Hypio, man. Davey, Nat, DripTrade. I got an onion to peel with you, Brody. Y'all watch out for me in soon. But yeah, it's not about me. It's about DripTrade and all this shit around Hypio and shit. Yeah, I don't know what people want from me. It's getting crazy. I sold the ad load like 6 hours ago. And it pumped again. I don't know what it happens to me. Hyper man, you need to tell me something about how to trade because I don't know what's going on, bro. Everything I buy and then I sell. Y'all laughing, but I'm crying, bro. I'm in my fetus position right now. I'm tired.
You know what
bro.
you got to do, Root? The guys on Sol, I remember when I was trading on Sol meme coins, and there was just so many coins where like you trade and you take your profit, and then it would send so hard. And a lot of them, they would copy trade themselves. They'd have a wallet that auto copy trades their trades, like, a fraction of it. And then that way, it's like you can sell on your wallet, and then like you're just stacking up all this dust, like these moon bags. So I think, Root, that might be the solution to your problems.
No, I'm not gonna copy pasta somebody else's work.
Yourself, you copy trade yourself, bro. You copy trade your own trades on a side wallet.
Okay.
You're on like how to trade roads.
Hold on, Sakuna. Hold on. Breathe in, breathe out, my homie. This is one of the things I'll still like Hypio. It's like, listen, I'm not gonna like suck up on something, but y'all did some awesome jobs, and also Hypio man, you doing an awesome job, regardless, because everybody around me doing an awesome job on HyperEVM. I'm not gonna lie, but this doesn't take the way that I want to have fun. If I what's called PVPU, PVEU, if fight you and 700 people around me, I don't give a fuck. I am fighting everybody around me. I'm being relaxed right now because I have a real life job and shit right now, and I'm cool because I'm like at the office. I cannot say shit because if I open my phone on the office, it's not good with the Hypio things I'm sending. But all this inside, yeah, I'm also building something, but I'm not gonna tell anybody nothing about it, what I'm building, and it's only Hypio man knows. So y'all want information, you can get it from him, and he's like an iron lord.
No, you guys can't. You can't get.
No, you cannot get it from you, so it's all good. Y'all motherfuckers don't know this.
Yeah, we got Sakuna. I think Sakuna is actually a perfect person to close it out. I love your Root. Sakuna is made the Hypericardo NFT that airdropped to all the OG Hypio holders, and I think it's so funny because to me the Hypericardos are like that's like the bar for if you're like a legit NFT project. Like if you're like just like a soft rug or you're a failure of a project, it's like you haven't even flipped the Hypericardos. This is just this great funny project that he's made, and I don't know, Sakuna, do you want to talk about your experience with Drip and what you're doing with Hypericardo or anything?
Yeah, Sakuna, what's your experience with Drip, specifically RDMs?
Hello. Actually, I just made like Americano for fun. Actually, yeah, because I'm big fans of Ricardo like since 10 years ago because of the dancing, the Ricardo gay dancing. It's so fucking gay, bro.
So,
But yeah, I made this collection because like first of all it's for fun, and secondly it's like because on HyperEVM we saw a lot of these copy paste stuff from other chain, right? Like the what we call it the punk or something like that, every shit they coming to the HyperEVM and trying to steal our hype, So I'm like, why not I create something special or unique? We call unique, right? Or gay on the HyperEVM. So that's why I create this Ricardo and I name it. I describe it as the most gayest collection on HyperEVM. Yeah. So it's just for fun, really fun. There's no second gayest because Hypio is no second best. So Ricardo is no second gayest. And yeah, and because the Ricardo is not like have sort of the utilities, it's all for fun. So everyone buy it just like they writing it, they hybrid it. Oh, I'm gay. So we can like go everywhere and say I'm gay in Twitter, right? Or X. And also, what I like about the Ricardo is because I didn't use the common way to draw it because I'm not a real artist actually. I self-taught, so everything I make from the the what we call it, the Procreate Pocket. Yeah, I use my hand to draw everything. Yeah, Procreate Pocket. Yeah, so yeah, and also for the upcoming, and I also have something special for top Hypio points holder and the top party holders or the top Ricardo holders. So basically, I also cooking some what we call it, the hypermyth. I think some people already saw that one. Like
Yeah.
today, MP.
We need to know about the
posting.
hypermilks.
Yeah, the hypermyth.
Wait, what?
I'm cooking for.
Tell us more about the hypermilks.
Okay. Maybe I'm gonna lay everything here, right?
No, oh, don't leak everything, Sakuna. Just a little bit, man.
Give us the tip. Give us the tip.
No. Okay. The tips is like same thing like Ricardo's. Everything is airdrop. There's no mean, and it's gonna be a very very less supply. It's about 300 of the hypermyth, and like I said earlier, top Hypio points holder. I think I will select like I will set the criteria like if you either you have you are either top holders of Buddy, Hypio's points or Ricardo's. That's all. So if every criteria you match, so sorry, yeah, we have to pass another I mean, like if you are qualified for one of those, so yeah, that's all. You get what I mean?
Beautiful.
Because
I'm bricked up.
because the supply is too less, like 300, I don't make it big. And also we'll have reserve for like 50 to 100 mils for exchange. What does it mean? Like you can exchange 10 Ricardos, for example, 10 Ricardos for 1 mil. So those Ricardos will go to the burn address forever.
Damn, Brody.
God damn, bro.
Yeah, you either can get it from secondary or you can use 10 Ricardo to exchange one hypermilk. That's it. Or you can buy on secondary if people dump it or something.
Sakuna.
Yeah.
I heard you gonna sing like Womanchi for everybody and that.
Bro. No, not singing here, okay? Not on the hyperfluence, bro. Not, bro.
I love saying it's amazing. You guys gotta go to Hypio's Got Talent space for that. But yeah, about the Hyper Ricardo, one thing I think people don't know about it is I think it's the best distribution in any NFT ever because it was per wallet to the people who were like OG Hypios. So it's like 2,000 something, whatever our full holders were, but it was one per wallet. So it's got the craziest distribution. And I've never seen an NFT like that where it's like every person has one and it's actually going the other way. Whereas usually it's like, 10% hold everything and then it filters out. So yeah, it's super cool. And I think it's honestly, Sakuna is such a great example of like your community and like making fun stuff for people that actually ends up being worth money just by having fun online.
Yeah. I have to mention, special thanks to Robo, because Robo created the Fattycam NFT on base, so that's why we can call it the address.
Yeah, nah,
And it dropped to everyone.
Don't tell about the first NFT project. Nah, Griffiths are like, what? No,
Bro, that's funny, bro.
No. It's funny though. But I got a question for DripTrade, Hypio man, if it's all right, like a real question. Hey, DripTrade, what do you guys think of how everything now going on the HyperEVM? What is your main goal? Because you're already a marketplace. What is your main goal from this year? Right? I think we are Q1 already passed. So what is your plan for Q4 2025? So it's the end of 2025. What kind of achievements do you want to have on DripTrade, right?
Yeah. I mean, so first of all, like next quarter or two, we want to pretty much get our marketplace feature complete for ourselves, right? and just let it sustain. We have a bunch of dope mechanics coming in, including different ways to even potentially reduce fees and different things like that. So we have a lot of cool things coming for Drip, but really it's like new product. We want to build new shit. Like we mentioned in the beginning, like NFT marketplaces, all these things, like they're very much like one to end thing. Like they're copy pastas. Like people have built them across, multiple chains before. They're nothing like anything that new, right? We want to build like that 0 to 1 shit on HyperEVM that utilizes HyperEVM in a way that no chain can do. And we want DripTrade to just, be like the first step in how we can distribute the next product. That's really the goal.
Thank you, Brian, of course.
Yeah, I mean, if if I may add on, I mean, there's really, I think, like two different sort of like two different directions sort of products that we have in the back burner. One is going to be sort of tied around just like how NFTs and it's going to be like really kind of tied around like how NFTs are, like how they behave, and just sort of like we want to sort of experiment a little bit more with the like the mechanics of like what people do like with these sort of tokens. And obviously the other piece is a little bit more out of left field, but something that like we've been working on for a while, which is just like House of Finance, we do want to do, it's something closer to like DeFi space, closer to sort of like some of our retarded hearts. So, yeah, that's sort of like a little bit more concrete on just like sort of what we have, in our back pockets.
Thank you, Brody. I appreciate that. So now what I'm going to do is take this information and steal this shit and fuck y'all up. Y'all want to see it? No, Lost Shadows of some love, bro. I'm just messing around, y'all. Davey, DripTrade, thank you very much for this question that I can ask. Thank you very much. I appreciate y'all, for real, for real. Hype Man, you got something to add, or are you going to wrap it up, or what are you going to do? Or like,
No, I think we'll wrap it up and let the DripTrade guys have the closing remarks if they want.
Yeah, guys. First off, thanks, Hypio Man, for having us. Means a lot. We're just really pumped to just share the ego with all of you. We really love building for all of you guys, and you guys have been a fundamental part of making that possible for us. So thanks a lot, and thanks to everyone in the audience. Seeing a lot of familiar faces all over the place. Sukuna, love you, my gay friend. There is no second gayest.
Thanks.
And lots of buddy hats all over. Holy Liquid, I see you. Shout out. Love the content. There's like random shit all over the place. So love all you guys, and we will see you on the other side.
I have a DripTrade badge. Answer me.
Facts.
wait, what is that? Demi? Oh no! Oh, this is going bad though. What?
Oh, shout out Demi and his upcoming project too.
Oh, you got
Hey,
a
yo.
project. Wait, what?
Demi.
I guess we're going to wrap it up here. Thank you guys all. Thank DripTrade. It's been a great time, and everybody who came and listened and spoke. Hope you guys all have a good week.
Yeah, thank you guys for hosting.
You can come to the party. It'd be awesome.
Party on Friday.
See you on Friday, bro.
Party on Friday, guys.
Love it. Thank you guys for having us. Thank you, Hyper.
Please,
As
guys.
always.
Have a great week, guys.
Go Hyperliquid.
Yes,
Love y'all.
Hypio Man, we need the outro.